Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast, Two Monkeys on a Microphone. You're joined here by one of your hosts, Jacques, or also I go by Jack, and one of my close friends, Ethan. Why don't you give a bit of an introduction, Ethan, to yourself?
Thank you, Jacques. Hello, listeners. My name is Ethan. Currently, I'm living in Hanoi, Vietnam, and Jacques here is in Canada, and we're two close friends. And I met him last summer when I was doing this trip in Canada, and we sort of have this very strong bond together. And we figured, hey, why don't we make a podcast? When we're both in our early 20s. We're just trying to make sense of the life that we made for ourselves. And we kind of wanted to share this with you. So I hope that someone out there is listening. I hope that you might find what we say here useful and maybe entertaining. So Jacques, why don't you introduce our listeners to the topic that we're going to talk today?
So today we're going to be talking about relationships. As everyone knows, they're pretty important. It's quite a universal thing, actually. I think everyone has to form relationships, even if you're somewhat of an isolated person, you still have to form relationships. And it's something that kind of Ethan and I have been talking about on Discord for some time. And we were thinking about maybe including you in the discussion because we're actually having quite a good time talking about them and how complicated they are and sometimes messy, but also in some ways rewarding and just helpful. And for today's episode, we're going to be talking about relationships. What fun! I hope you enjoy the conversation. Just to reiterate, my name is Jacques. I'm joined here by my close friend Ethan, and you are listening to the podcast Two Monkeys on a Microphone. So let's talk a little bit about immediate relationships. Like not necessarily relationships with other like strangers yet. I'm thinking more kind of in your immediate circle, so maybe your family members, your siblings. I guess siblings is kind of your family in some ways. Well, actually, it is your family. Your teachers, maybe your friends, those kind of people. And the first thing I'd like to talk about is maybe who is the most influential person in your life? I guess I'll open that question to you, Ethan.
Oh yeah, that's a very deep question. I feel like. So for my answer to make sense, we have to go back to my family history. So I'm just gonna let you know right away. I'm just gonna explain that later. So to me, my like the person that influenced me the most was my stepbrother. We grew up together. Um, so my history, my family. So my mom got a divorce when I was a kid, and she married my stepfather when I was like 10 or maybe 12. And he himself was also a man of divorce. He divorced his wife. They had children together, and he was living alone with his son. He met my mom, and they were like, "Hey, why don't we just make a family?" And they got married, and his son, I call him my stepbrother. So my stepbrother, I met him when I was like 12, maybe 10. Keep in mind that at that point in my life, it was pretty lonely, as you can imagine. We were just like moving places to places in the city. I didn't have many friends, and I grew up in a family where most adults just go to their work. So I didn't have any friends. So he was like my first permanent friend I had when I was younger. So as you can imagine, my impression of him is very strong. And as our relationship evolved throughout the year, I just got closer and closer to him. I wanted I want to be his best friend. I want to get closer to him. I want to make him proud of me, and I want to become the person that, you know, he will be like, oh, that's my brother, that sort of stuff. And what would happen is that I would try to do the things that would make him happy, um, and I will learn things that he thinks that I should be learning, like learning how to play the guitar, or how to respect women, or I know it's kind of unrelated. How to play the guitar, how to talk to people, how to make friends, how to be respectful to people, all this sort of stuff, right? And because I have this very strong bond with him, I kind of look up to him and in those aspects. So that kind of like shape the way that I am. I try to look at people and problems in a way that it's, how do I say this? It's respectful, I guess. Uh,
Oh,
yeah, and I I also he's a very hardworking man in terms of school and stuff. So I tried to be like that too. So I think I got a little bit of that from him. He was a nerd. I was a nerd too. He played a lot of video games. I play a lot of video games. So yeah, a big part of my life was kind of like surrounding him. So I would say he was like the most influential person in my life. Even though he's not here, he doesn't live with me anymore. But I can still find myself doing the things that we used to do together when we were kids, and I think that's it's something I think about. What about
yeah,
you,
I
Sean?
actually did.
Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say I didn't really know that about you actually, Ethan. So how old is your stepbrother?
So so when he was like 10 years older than me, roughly.
Oh,
Yeah.
so he's like a older brother.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So when I met him, I was like in I was like in third grade or something, and he was already like getting into high school and stuff. So there's a big gap between us. Um, yeah,
They kind of like showed you like cool things like video games and stuff
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
You're like,
And it's
oh
like
man, that's cool.
exactly. It was my mom was very how to say conservative and protective of me. She wouldn't let
Uh,
me like watch television. She wouldn't let me watch the TV for like 20 minutes. So,
I see, I
and you
see.
can imagine when I meet him, there's like this whole world open up. He would introduce me to like things that I never had the guts to actually try, like
Mm.
video games, watching YouTube, um, and do
Well,
stupid teenager things, that sort of stuff.
yeah, like knowing you personally, you are very like a high achiever. Um, very kind of mark focused. You also kind of look for opportunities, especially abroad, that you can do. So I guess that some way is your mom's influence, and then but you're also there's another side to you where um, you like playing video games. You like playing a lot of Factorial. So would you say that you like the grade side is like your mom's kind of side, and then like playing Factorial like all night is your older brother's kind of side, or am I reaching a bit too much
I
here?
think I think that is a very accurate uh, uh, perspective because yeah, I mean, growing up in Asia, as you can imagine, there's a lot of expectation from you. Uh, I'm the only son, by the way, and I'm the first son in the family. So you can imagine that my mom had a lot of expectation for me. It says it in how she would treat me, how she taught me. It's in my name as well. My name is very fancy. I told you.
Yeah, so for the people who don't know, Ethan is the name that Ethan uses in Canada, but his actual name is Toan. Am I pronouncing that right now?
Very, yeah, it's good. Don't
Okay,
worry.
Toan.
hmm Um,
And so what does Toan mean?
oh yeah. So my full name is Lương Hoài Bảo Toàn, right? So that's how you say it in
Hmm.
Vietnamese. So the interesting part is the middle name Hoài Bảo. It's actually no. I don't think I have met anybody who has that middle name. is a word that means big dream, big man,
Um,
big goal. Someone who's like out there to reach for the world and grab it for himself. That sort of thing. Yeah, kind of fancy, I
that's
know.
some that's some heavy expectations on
I
your part.
know.
You know what my middle name means? First happy boy. Nice and simple. As long as I'm happy, I'm living up to the expectations my mom
I
had for
wish,
me, I guess.
that's good. I wish I was like that, because as you can imagine, growing up wasn't really nice for me with all those expectation on me and my name. So anyway, yeah, back to the question. Yeah, I'm a very high achiever, almost like perfectionistic, I would say. Is that a word? I hope so. But yeah, I try to achieve and do
You're
things
very
and
professional.
yeah, well, not professional, but I just want to do things perfectly, you know. Whether
Mm.
it's in life or in school, I always try my best and be on top, that sort of things. But then when I go home, right, and I have this other side of me, uh, the other side that would, you know, get heartbroken by this some girl in school, write stupid songs, play video games all day, go on YouTube and search for, the things that a 10-year-old would search for on YouTube, that sort of stuff.
It sounds like an anime plot in some ways. I think there's a few
um,
anime that have that plot where there's like the refined person and everyone has like these high expectations of them, but like you go home and they're like a gremlin crawling out of the cave. I
yeah.
actually don't think that depiction's too off, to be honest. So like just for the viewers at home, you can kind of imagine Ethan outside, got a nice suit, long hair, very professional, talks like very smoothly. And then he comes home and he talks with me on Discord and he's like a complete monkey. Hence why our name is Two Monkeys on a Microphone, because this guy's a complete baboon at home. Like you don't know how much Factorial he plays. It's insane.
It's not that much. Okay, first
Now,
of
if I
all,
could get a word about my idoru or person I admire, it would be nice, Ethan. It would be nice.
sorry, go ahead, buddy. Tell me and the viewers. So, how was this like for you to grow up, and how did
Well,
like?
I don't really have like a broken heart story here, which is kind of sad. You know, coming, I felt like you should go second, and I should have went first, so they could get like the real raw, like kind of you see it in a paper or a movie kind of story. Because my story is pretty bland in comparison. My parents are together. I live in Canada, and of course, I very much look up to my dad and my mom. They both have qualities that I admire. My dad is very professional, and he's also very hardworking. He uh, does everything for his work. He's constantly working, and he's constantly thinking about how to better, um, you know, better himself at work. My mom, she stays at home, but she's got like this clean mindset where everything has to be like cleaned and tidy and beautiful. So she kind of like shows me the ropes when it comes to managing yourself at home. But the person I want to like, my honorable mention for, or the person I want to bring to light for being a true inspiration is actually the cat that I used to have called
Oh,
Etwell. Unfortunately, he died,
oh,
I believe, 2 years ago. He was around for most of my life, and he was a real little trooper. He was a gray little cat, and he had um, green eyes and pretty pointy ears too.
hmm.
He kind of looked a bit like a wild animal that, for some reason, was domesticated. He was also very, very smart. So the first cat we had, his name was Genny. He didn't last very long. He ended up getting run over by a car.
Oh
He
my
was
God.
like a dum dum. He was really stupid. He'd go onto the roof and then he wouldn't know how to get down, so my dad would have to get him down. And He just wasn't the brightest cat. But he had a really, really sweet soul. Kind of reminds me a bit like of you, Ethan. In some ways. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. But Etwell, like the cat that was more like me, in the podcast, he was like genius. He knew how to open doors, like doors that were actually closed, and he never used the cat box. He like was very proper. He always went outside, and he was also a deadly hunter. He'd like kill all these different animals. He killed a bat. He killed a squirrel. He actually decapitated a squirrel.
Oh my god.
He killed mice. He killed baby birds. He killed like adult birds. He was like a menace around the neighborhood. But everyone loved him, and he would also go on like these long journeys where usually cats kind of stay around the block, but he was an outdoors cat, so he actually went like 6 blocks down. Like I remember we were driving like halfway downtown, and we basically saw him out in the streets, and he was just doing his thing, just walking across the street. And then he'd always like come back afterwards, and I don't think we really knew how far he went till after he died, and we like heard stories of how he was like all the way across the city, just prowling and walking, which is kind of funny because when we'd take him out for walks, he wouldn't want to go very far from the house. He'd follow you. He'd be pretty smart about it too. He'd watch out for cars, and he didn't need a leash or anything like that. But he didn't want to go too far away from the house. But actually, when he was out on his own, he'd go like super far away from the house. Unfortunately, he died. We don't know exactly by what, but we believe it might have been stomach cancer or something. And the reason why he's like an honorable figure for me was he kind of showed me that in life, sometimes you just don't have to care that much. You just kind of go through life and do what you gotta do, and don't think about like it too deeply. And that's something that I think a lot of people could use as advice, because I think a lot of the time we nitpick about very small little things, and we get frustrated about small little things, but in the end they're meaningless in the grand scheme of things. And I think he was very much a cat who knew when to get worried when things were actually very bad, but most of the time he was just chill all the time. So yeah, that's the cat.
Yeah. Well, I have a few things in common. Firstly, I want to say I'm very sorry for your loss. As a as a cat parent myself, I can feel the weight on your shoulder you have to carry when your pet dies away. I think that's very tragic, and I'm sorry you have to go through that. I can tell that you had a lot of bond with this little fella, and I think that was it a he? He's a he, right?
Yeah, it was a he.
Okay, yeah. So I think he lived an amazing life with you, and I think that I'm glad. I'm just glad that you had a sort of experience.
I'm glad you mentioned you're also a cat parent, because if you don't know, Ethan also has cats, and he hasn't had the best of luck with cats either. We can maybe tell that story a little later, but yeah, we both haven't had the best of luck with cats. Don't worry, I didn't really mourn too much. I'm kind of like the person who it doesn't hit me all at once. It's just kind of like slowly eats away at you, and then eventually you forget about it. So it wasn't like it was a shock when he died, of course, but it didn't last too long. I think I'm a very in some ways I can't think of the best words, but let's say not very mushy when it comes to feelings.
How did you find out, by the way, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, he died in front of me. So he choked. And I looked at him, and I thought, okay, so should I call someone, or should I like do CPR?
God.
And by the time I had figured out, okay, maybe I should call someone, he was dead. You could see. Lots of people don't know this. Like I'm surprised you don't see this in movies. But when someone dies, the iris like expands. And it kind of looks like a starry night almost, because like the complete it's like this big black dot in the middle of the eye, and it's very glassy. So once you see that, you know the animal's dead. And I imagine it's the same thing with people too. So I saw that and I knew he was a goner. So
I just I just love how casual you are about this sort of thing. um,
yeah, yeah. Like I tried to cry about it. I
mm,
called someone up and I was like, "Listen, my cat just died. I'm really sad." And I tried to like cough up a few tears, but again, like it was just like it died. So I kind of uh, I like of course texted my parents, told them like, "Hey, the cat's dead,"
mm,
and yeah, of course I'm not. I'm making myself look like a callous person who doesn't care about emotions or anything, but like it did hurt. It's just
mm.
it wasn't like it wasn't it wasn't like
Like, oh, he's a.
strong sensation where like you
Right.
feel like the world is gone and you're questioning the meaning of life. It was
Uh,
more like a slower pain where you kind
mm,
of you notice that the cat's not around.
mm,
Like Etoile, which was
mm,
the cat's name, would like to like sit on the sofa. And of course, I began to like notice he's not on the sofa anymore, and
yeah.
I began to notice, hey, when I wake up, he's not outside, kind of scratching on the door, trying to get in.
Mm,
So it's those kind of things
mm,
that make you think about it, and that kind of hurt a little. But when the cat died, it wasn't like it wasn't a big shock. It was
mm.
just kind of like a man that ball just died. Wow.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh. It just
No, no, no.
the
It's
way
fine.
that you put
It's
it.
not like I'm
Yeah,
uh,
about the whole, grieving and
sensitive about it.
the sadness that they're not there anymore, and you just see things that aren't there anymore. I feel that, when my cat died recently. Well, I didn't. It was a big shocker for me. I, yeah, for me, it was like you said, for our listeners out there, something you should know is that while Jacques being not the kind of mushy person, uh, I very much am. I am like the
Yeah.
softest person that you can ever meet, even though I do a very good job of not showing that. I think Jacques is like the only few person that actually know that side of me. But anyway, when my cat died, two of them actually, um, I felt like my world is ending now. I woke up every day. I feel this immense pain in my chest, and I just don't see the point of it. When you have this very strong connection with these pets, these members of your little family, they give you meaning. For the first time in my life, I actually live and think about other people and other things outside of myself, and that gave me meaning. And now suddenly that meaning is gone, and one day I just wake up and I just feel like this is it. You know, I just I don't know anymore. And what's the point? That sort of stuff. And like you said, I also start seeing things that is not there anymore. I start hearing sounds that aren't there. And at first, it was very, as you can imagine, it was very heartbreaking. Um, but over time, you get used to it. You open the door and
Let's just well,
oh,
let's just be a bit fair here. Like Ethan's like saying that he's a more mushy person than me, and I think in some ways that's true. But just to be fair, like I live with my family. I still go to university. Ethan, right now, he's still going to university too, but he isn't with his family. He lives alone. He does have a roommate, but very much like his cats are his immediate family. So that's kind of a reason why I think for him, when his animals die, it's like a big shock, like he's about to throw himself out the window. Whereas for me, I'm like, oh, I have two other family members. Of course, it's pretty sad, but I do have that support around me, right?
mm,
So
so
it's different environments in some ways
yeah,
too. I think the environment does play an impact on your emotions.
Thank you for mentioning that. But anyway, let's not drag on this podcast about how my cat died.
So I guess we should get to our kind of second topic,
Yeah,
which
sure.
I
Okay.
believe was friendships in some ways.
Okay.
Should we each like make a quick comment about one meaningful friendship and then kind of expand on that?
Sure. Do you want to talk about our friendship? Because I think it's very interesting. There's something working here.
I
Uh,
think that would be a long conversation, but since it's our first podcast, and I think the viewers would like to know kind of who we are, and
okay.
why we're even doing this whole podcast
Okay.
together
Hmm.
as well, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Do you want to start?
so do
I'll
you,
let you start.
okay. So
Okay.
we're gonna scrap that whole thing that I talked about at the start, and instead we're just gonna talk about our friendship because that's the most meaningful one, to be honest. It's the whole reason we're doing this podcast
Yeah.
right now.
Okay.
So you'd like me to start?
Yeah. So let's start
Well,
about how we met and what your impression of me first, and then I'll go mine, and then yeah, we start from there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if you don't know, well, actually, you probably don't know, but Ethan knows this. I was looking for a summer job, and I got a job at the university at UR Intern. I guess I should say the university I go to, eh? At the international office at my university. I almost doxed myself just there. I keep forgetting we're not on a private call. Anyway, if you don't know, also I'm a bit sick. That's why I'm coughing. But yes, so got a I got a job at the international office at my university, and as part of the job there, I had to kind of be a supporting role. Will take a supporting role in government-sponsored trips. So one of the government-sponsored kind of trips or group that was created was a group called Global Initiatives, which was essentially a group of international students, but also local students who would come to the university that I was working at and would do various activities that would help to kind of broaden their awareness about global issues, while also kind of talking about how they can be more environmentally friendly um, and I guess in some ways do social issues. Were there any social issues we tackled? Yeah, they were. We
There
went
were,
to the
yeah,
museum
Freddie,
and we
yeah, yeah.
talked
Or,
about social issues. So yeah, social issues and that kind of stuff.
mhm.
And I I had actually participated in these kind of groups as a participant, but I'd never kind of been an organizer for this type of group. And the, one of the things the organizers had to do was they had to pick up the students from the airport and bring them to the university. And the first student that I brought to the university was
It's
Ethan.
me. Hey.
Yeah, it was Ethan. And you know, I'm going to mention this even though I don't have to mention it. I do have a little bit of a gripe. So I knew Ethan was from Vietnam. I was told it, and I was said, okay, you have to pick up Ethan at a certain time, go over there, and, you know, be there for him.
Mm.
And I said, oh, sure, I'll do it. And right before I was going out the door, I talked to someone, and they said, yeah, you're picking up Ethan, right? And I said, yeah, I'm picking up Ethan. And they said, yeah, he's from Thailand. I think they said Thailand. I said, oh, really? I thought he was from Vietnam. And they said, nope, he's from Thailand. So I went out the door, and I was like, okay, well, it's a simple job. I just have to kind of like, you know, be friendly. First impressions are very important, so I have to like not screw anything up, and just say hi and bring him to the university. So I go to the airport. I wait for him. I don't know what he looks like or anything. Like I was just like told to go to the airport like just the day of. So I had very little information. I barely even knew the program, to be honest, because I was working on other things behind the scene. Well, Ethan ends up, you know, finding me because I had this big sign that said, you know, the program name, Global Initiatives,
There was
and the
my name on it
university's
too.
name.
Yeah, that was my name on
Oh, I
it.
had your name on it. I don't remember the sign exactly. I think it was a piece of paper that we literally just like printed
I
out
still keep
right
it.
before.
I still keep it, by the way.
Oh, okay, okay.
But anyway,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
And so I said, "Hey, oh, hi, Ethan. Nice to meet you." Actually, I called you by your real name, Toan, because you hadn't told me that your English name was Ethan yet.
Yeah.
I said, "How was your trip from Thailand?" He's like, "No, I'm from Vietnam." Like, oh yeah, yeah, Vietnam. I must have got it mixed up. And I was thinking in my head, I had it, but they screwed me over. And I was just thinking of that most of the time while we were waiting for your luggage. But I think I was making mild conversation. I don't remember what I was telling you. I was probably telling you some useless information about the place to where I live. I almost it's about that. You know what? I probably can say where I live, but you know what? Maybe for another time. Let's just say it's a very flat place. Um, Flat scenery, flat everything. We have nice sky though. Anyway, so we leave the airport, and there's no taxis. I couldn't believe it. So then I'm like, okay, Ethan, let's sit on this bench right here. And this is like the bench for where all the taxis come to. Like, if we sit here, a taxi will show up and we'll go to the university A-OK. And Ethan completely believed me. He had no reason not to, but I was just thinking, God, where are all the taxis? We might be waiting here for a long time. So, we talked to each other. He told me a bit about Vietnam, and I told him a bit about the program he was doing, even though I didn't really know too much about it myself at the time. And we found a taxi in the end, and we're like headed towards the university. And then Ethan's like, "Can I videotape you?" I said, "Sure." I think he like saw that I was kind of like, "Why the hell do you want to videotape me in my eyes?" And he like stumbles out the answer saying, "Well, this is a really important trip for me. I want to have like a record of the whole thing." I'm thinking, is this guy a vlogger or something? Like, I had seen like international students like vlogging their trips and things like that, but I was thinking, am I going to be in like a vlog in the middle of nowhere? Well, I kind of was right, with that hunch. If I think about it now, with like how you like post our conversations on Instagram and all that.
Well,
But
it's
at
not
the
a-
time, yeah, I was like, oh, he's just a blogger or something like that. But anyway, that's how it all started, and then
Yeah.
we became good friends. And I could go on detail about the specifics after that, but I think I'd bore you all, and I think you get the gist of the conversation.
Thank you, Jock,
Yep,
for
that's the start.
for the for your insightful experience. When I first, so in our program, so dear our listeners, so there are two parts to our program that we did together. There were the online part and the offline part. The online part, we did it. It was like 2 weeks beforehand. I traveled to Canada, I believe so, and that was when I met Jock. And I, believe it or not, and this is something that I haven't told Jock yet. So, I actually had a very strong impression of him being this guy. He seems like the technical guy. The guy that everyone would just talk to him because he knows how to get things done. And I got that impression of him the first time I met him via Zoom during the call.
We got that all from, hey everyone, I'm taking a group photo on Zoom.
Yes.
Smile at the camera. Keep smiling. Keep smiling. Okay, just another 10 seconds. It's all good, guys. And then I never showed up on Zoom ever again.
Exactly.
We got that just from that.
Yes,
Okay,
yes. Because my thought process was that you never talked, you never chat, but you were in here. So I'm guessing like you must be, the kind of person that plays an important background role. It must be like something important. And that was my idea of you. And
Literally, my role was just to take a photo of you guys and like make sure everyone was there. Like I was scrolling down the participants to see who was there and who wasn't there because who wasn't there weren't going to get a certificate at the end of the thing. To be honest with you, but yeah, I think I was only there one time too. So
No,
I'm
no,
glad
you were
you
there.
had such a strong impression of me just for that short moment.
There were a lot of people that I
Yeah.
had strong impression with. One of which was Anna. The second one is you, and the third one is Ilea. Jacques here knows Ilea and Anna, so they are just another participant. But more on that later, if ever. But anyway.
Yeah, if ever. We're
So.
gonna be naming it. Yeah.
But anyway,
Alright.
so that was my first impression of Jacques, and when I met him at the airport, I, you know, when you first meet someone, you have this sort of expectation or maybe like impression of someone. And my impression of Jacques was that this guy literally came up to me and say, "Hey, how was your trip? Here's a bag of a banana and a microwavable popcorn." And to me, that was very
Thought I
fun.
gave you a gift. Wow.
And to me, that was very
You know,
funny.
Ethan, you have a good memory.
That was so funny to me because I just sat through like a 10-hour trip, and the first thing I got offered was like a banana and a microwavable popcorn. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that? We were sitting in the airport. It's not like there's a microwave elsewhere that we can just grab. But I just
It
think
was a
it's fun.
distraction, so you wouldn't realize that there were no taxis and stuff.
It worked.
It was all part of the plan.
But anyway,
Anyway.
that's how we met.
Yeah, if you don't know, Ethan has really strong impressions about people, especially the people I think he meets for the first time, and then when you're leaving, you also had strong impressions. Like, I know you left with someone other than me because I don't think I was part of that Was I part of the program for the end?
Yes,
don't
you
remember.
were. Yes, we were.
I was.
Yeah, yeah.
I made a nice final speech. I do remember that.
I have that on my
Uh,
phone.
Really? You
Yeah.
recorded it?
I recorded
I
everything.
totally forgot what I said.
whole thing.
I probably said something about how I did trips in the past, how I hope you guys have fond memories all together, and some more kind of top of the head nonsense.
Yeah, I do have that. But anyway, what I was trying to say is that that's how we met. And I think that's the reason, the fact that we had strong impression with each other at first. I think it gives us some sort of connection that we have that allows us to become friends. We talk about things. We share these embarrassing stories with each other, even though I'm not in Canada anymore. And now we sort of had this idea about, hey, we call each other every day. I mean, every week. We have fun. We have laughs. We talk about things.
I don't think I could manage every day with you, Ethan. I'll be honest. It's going to be like the podcast, our Discord discussion, and then
That's it. No, but like, it's kind of the same for me. I would just, it would be too much for me. Something about me is that I love talking to people, but I need to recharge myself, and I think that's the same case for you as well. But anyway,
Definitely you have to recharge from all the verbal abuse I give you every single time we talk to each other.
Sure.
If you could survive that every day, you'd literally be what are those people who enjoy pain and suffering?
Oh, that's the word.
Misogynist? No, that's not misogynist. That's the wrong word. Masochist. Isn't it masochist?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it something like that? Yeah. Something.
Something like that. I'm not a big kind of terms person, which is funny if you think about what I study and things like that.
Me too. Oh
I
yeah,
also told
masochist.
Ethan that if for me, I'm trying to become a teacher, so I studied in education. I told Ethan that if ever there comes a time that I look back and just wait a second, I could get canceled for this. I'm pressing the big red button and this podcast is gone. So you better record it, dear viewer, if you want to keep it, because One day it might be like stripped from the face of YouTube and Spotify, never to be seen again.
I doubt that we will get big enough for that to be a to that
I,
to be a
there'll
problem.
be 2 viewers every week. But you know what? In the future, when like we don't know like what happens and we're all old and stuff,
Mm.
we can look back and be like, we did that podcast together. Wasn't that fun? It's actually still online with still 2 views on it.
You know, you keep thinking, you keep saying about like, imagine the people in the future in your life, what they're gonna think about the podcast that you make. They'll be like, very cool. Oh wow. And I
They
think
won't think anything because it'll be gone.
maybe.
Anyway, we probably should get back on topic.
All right. Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, Ethan, but
It's okay.
we do
That's
have a
probably good. I
topic
think.
at hand that we have to cover.
Mhm.
I think that goes over our friendship. Do you
Mhm.
go to your
Okay.
last topic and then call it a day?
Oh, we're calling it a day. Well, I have this very interesting questions that I want to ask you. So,
Sure, sure.
what do you think? What make friendship last? Because we're in our 20s, and things are constantly changing, and one of those are relationships. And we know people. Some of them, they stay. Some of them they don't. Some of them, we just met once, but turns out to be best friends. But some of them we know them their whole life, but if I tell you to call them right now, you wouldn't. So why is that? Like what keeps us together, I would say. What do you think?
Us together or
Yeah,
like
just in general, but you can talk about us too.
in general? Okay. Well, I'll start with in general. I think that friendships eventually deteriorate, and like anything in life, everything's entropic and eventually kind of breaks down. So the same with friendships. Someone once told me that you only keep like 1 or 2 of your high school friends uh, closely together, and I believe that like applies to everything. Like you usually only keep 1 or 2 university friends that you keep in contact with regularly. Um, so yeah, I think you like the close friendships. There aren't many of those. You have a lot of like general friendships or like broad friendships that I guess broad's not the right term. They aren't as deep.
Mm.
And those kinds of friendships are just really based off of like seeing the person and being like, "Hey, Jimmy, it's been a while," and then you might have a coffee or something like that. But you don't stay, you don't hang out too often with them. Usually, it's just whenever you see them. The deep friendships, I think, are the ones that are the meaningful ones. You go over things that concern you, um, things that might be depressing. Whenever you need advice, you ask them things, and you also have like a sense of humor or a sense of a way of talking that is unique and is just for that one friendship. Um, and yeah, I think that's kind of stuff that I can think of off of the top of my head. Um, I hope that kind of ramble about has some kind of meaning in it. But
What
maybe
about
you
us?
have like a bit more of a cohesive thing to say about it.
Well, I think the things that keep friendships last is our compatib well compatibility. As person, we all have things that we love doing. We all have things that we love saying. We all have things that we like to express. And when those interactions are meaningful, like you said, it creates this sort of bond. And as long as we are having that sort of bond, I think that's where it lasts. It involves, sure, but there's still something that holds you together, whether it's like the way that we talk to each other, the way that we hang out with each other, and the way that we feel around each other, that sort of stuff. And I feel like when we are in our 20s, things are changing constantly, right? Your life purpose, your goals, your future, your career, and at some point, some of them is gonna change the way that you behave around other people. That includes your friends. You know, for example, you might get into a relationship and you wouldn't be able to spend as much time as anymore. That's where we start seeing, you know, sort of like the distant. And sometimes come, you can overcome it. Sometimes you can't. So that's why you see like people are separating. But I think the sort of bond that we have, is what makes us, not you and me also, but you know, in general, I think that's what keeps people stay together, I guess. Um, and I think that's what happening between you and me. Even though our time together is not that long, considering we only met for like in person, we only know each other for like a week or so, but we managed to have that sort of bond, and it keeps going, you know. And that doesn't happen with other people or other participant in the group because we didn't have the sort of first impression, that strong first impression, and we also don't share that sort of bond that we are having. So I think that's why. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's
just.
hard.
Hmm,
It's,
sorry, go
it's
ahead.
hard to know what makes that bond necessarily.
Hmm.
But I do think there's a special bond. Some people say it's because opposites kind of attract, and I
Mm,
do think we have like opposing characteristics. But I think it's it's something else. It's when you can see something in someone that makes you stronger in a way,
mm,
or that you value.
mm,
And I definitely feel like when I'm creating friendships with people in my classes, I'm trying to find something that I can understand, something that I value and that I see as important. And usually that means that I'm looking for necessarily maybe a type of person. So I really like talking to introverts because I myself once was an introvert and I feel like I can get that connection. I also like people who are athletic. So like there's this one guy in my class who goes to the gym every Fridays and I'm like, hey, I can kind of relate to that. I like going to the gym and like working out too. So it's usually just trying to find that thing that makes someone special. And we're not saying like any groundbreaking thing here,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
Like I'm sure everyone already knows this, but when you're actually like thinking about your relationships and your friendships, it's not always complicated, right? Um, and yeah, that's my point.
Mm. Well, so that's friendships. You know, Jacques, let's go over a little bit about romantic relationships.
Icy things, eh?
Do you wanna?
Go out with a bang.
Yeah, go with the bang.
Am I sharing first? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm out off on the guillotine.
Hmm.
What do you want me to talk about?
So, what was your first relationship like, and how is that? Like, is it impactful? Is it memorable? Or what's special about it? I would
You
love
mean
to
my
know.
first and only relationship?
Well, I wouldn't suggest
Where I was
only.
a boyfriend and girlfriend?
Yeah, like official.
Sure.
Yeah.
Man, like if you got me like a year ago, I'd be on here for like hours telling you like every detail about it. But now that's been like I think it's been 2 years since we've broken up.
Mm.
It's kind of now hard to actually remember, which is really funny because it was something that I was thinking about a lot back
Uh-huh.
in the past.
Hmm. Oh, I hope you're
Sorry
okay.
again, I'm a bit sick. So. Um, well, to start out, the relationship I got in was a long distance one. It was actually through a program, study abroad program, that I found her, and I guess she found me. And how much do you know about this relationship already, Ethan? I know you've seen photos.
Well, I mean, you told me a lot. So I'm guessing I know pretty much 80%. He was,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
but
I want to make this interesting for you too, so
it's okay.
I'll try and bring up some new stuff.
Okay.
But he was an organizer and I was a participant, and it was there was a rule that organizers could not have relationships with each other, but there's nothing
Ooh.
about participants and organizers having relationships with each other. But we never actually formally got in a relationship with each other during the program. It was actually afterwards I went back to Korea to meet a few people from the program who had stayed on in Korea. And that's when we kind of got into a relationship with each other, because I guess there weren't as many people around. It just seemed more natural. It wasn't the type of person who I was necessarily looking for. Actually, when I first met her, I was thinking, this girl keeps looking at me with like suspicious eyes and shady look.
Shady look.
And like when it was like when I first actually like got to know her, it was because my bed had bed bugs in it. And I complained to the guy, one of the organizers who spoke English. And he said he'd set me up, like he'd speak to one of the Korean organizers, because they knew like the city we were in better than he did, and they would like sort it out for me. And before that, I had actually met with another female organizer who was really nice, and I was really hoping it would be with her. Instead, it was with like my ex.
Oh.
And I remember thinking to myself, oh no, why did I have to get paired up with the shady eye lady who like always looks at me like
Classic.
funny?
Such a classic
But
romantic story.
yeah, like I don't know. Anyway, we hung out and we had a lot of fun together actually. I'm quite an energetic person, so I usually get along with people pretty well, especially when it comes to international students and people from abroad. Probably because I know that I won't be seeing them again, and I can be like, oh well, if I act dumb, like it's not going to catch up with
No
me
one's gonna
later.
remember me anyway. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So yeah, we really connected, and we tried to make it work, but it didn't end up working. The main thing was I don't think she wanted to come to Canada, and I didn't want to go to Korea. So we were kind of like,
Yeah,
in a
it's
sticky situation here where like neither of us wanted to actually move out to live with the other one in a different country. I wasn't like I don't know very much Korean. I had basic lessons in Korean, but nothing like where I could actually like live there. Even though I hear like tons of stories of like foreigners going over to Korea and like living there without knowing the language. But that's not something I wanted to do. I was like, I'm very much a person who likes to have deep conversations, and I feel like I wouldn't be able to have deep conversations with limited Korean. So
So you guys broke up
I
because
wanted
of,
to,
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah. And she didn't want to come to Canada because she wanted to get a job in Korea. So that's basically the essence for why we broke up. I could go into more detail, but I'd actually have to kind of like think back and remember it, which is
You didn't
kind
touch
of
it.
difficult.
So was it difficult for you to get over her? Did that change anything about you?
Um, I think kind of like with my cat dying, it wasn't like a shock, but it's like when someone's very special, it's kind of like think if you had a sister, and then suddenly you're just told you can't care for the sister anymore. You have to just kind of like block her off. It's like you've created this very special relationship with someone, and then you're just expected to say goodbye to it. I wasn't really the type who agreed necessarily with that. So like I I kept in contact with her,
Mm.
and like we never like ever talked about getting back together or anything like that. But we were close friends,
Mm.
and the things she did very much affected me, and I think the things I did very much affected her.
Mm.
And because of that, um, it was kind of like you tried to look out for her, or well, I tried to look out for her, or just consider like the position she was in, and just think about how to make her life easier.
Mm.
And gradually, we just kind of drifted apart. We texted less often.
Mm.
We we didn't talk about as much deep stuff anymore.
Mm.
And again, as I said about friendships, sometimes things just kind of break apart. No matter how close you are to someone,
Mm.
um, you both are living different lives, and there's less you can relate to. There's less you can kind of understand. So, yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's kind of what happened.
Mm. Wow. Um, that's kind of sad. I gotta say. Seeing.
Maybe, but
Mm.
I'd rather it be like we both move on and we find like our something to do,
Mhm.
something to motivate us, than one person is stuck
Mhm.
and they can't move on and they keep like you know living in the past.
Mhm.
um, I think that's a much worse way to end things.
Mm. If you could go back, would you do anything different?
It's hard. I don't think, like, I can think of lessons I learned
Mm.
from that relationship, but
Mhm.
I don't think I'd do anything different.
Mm. That's sweet.
One of the lessons was you have to learn how to give people space. Um, Even if they're very important to you,
Mhm.
you have to learn that they need space to breathe, and they need to, you know, and you can't always be there. Like, you have to learn how to just leave things and not care too much about it.
Mm. Yeah, that's probably a good idea to do. I mean, I'm a I'm a sticky person, but I don't like it when others are sticky. So.
I know. Just quickly, Ethan, my nose is getting more and more clogged as we speak.
Okay,
So
so let's wrap this
I,
up.
let's
We're-
not wrap it up just yet. I'm just saying, I don't know if I can talk much longer.
Alright, buddy.
That's the problem with being sick. I feel like I'm butchering my story because I'm like, I wish I could say more, but my nose is so clogged. I'm really sick. If you don't know,
Oh,
I know that you know, Ethan, but like the viewers probably don't know. I've been sick all week,
poor
and
Shaw.
I'm just getting better. If you think it sounds like I'm extra nasally, that's the reason why. So how about if you go into your observations about romantic relationships?
Well, man, such a good timing because I just went through a series of mess. I don't know what kind of mess I should go into right now, but I would start this by saying that relationships are fun, but that's also the reason why it hurts so much when they're gone, especially romantic ones. Um, and but I try to look at it in like the positive way. Um, Things happen for a reason, and there's a good reason why things don't work out. Maybe that's a good thing. And one more thing I would like to say is that for if there's anyone out there who's listening, if you're hurting, you know, if you just got out of a relationship and things are just not looking good for you, I'm I just want to say that things will get better. I know it's cliche, but it will. Because trust me, at the time, I was so hurt that couldn't. I just couldn't do anything. Ask Jock. He knows that how miserable I was. But yeah,
He was pretty miserable.
I guess that's the things I wanted to say. But so relationships. So what do you want to know? Ask me a question, because it's really hard to pinpoint.
So, unlike me, Ethan's a much more popular little chap,
Don't say popular.
and he's been in many, many relationships. So, me being someone who's only been in one relationship, I would never understand. But I was just wondering, like, is there a particular relationship that stood out to you? Romantic relationship that stood out
romantic?
to you?
Well, I can think of one. Um, yeah. So I dated a lot of people. Um, all of them were uniques in their own way. I learned my lessons. I made my own mistakes, and I moved on from them in different ways. But if I have to pick the one that's most profound, it's probably the one that just happened last year. um, I was it last year? I can't wait, hold on. Was it last year? Oh my god. Yeah, but anyway,
Let's just say in the like vicinity of
the
last year.
the vicinity of last year. Um, I was dating this girl that I met on Bumble. Bumble is an online dating app. Yes, yes, yeah.
I didn't know you used those, Ethan.
I mean, they're fun sometimes. It's not like I go on there every day to look for a woman, but I go there. So I was
Right.
using Bumble, and I saw her. It's not like I downloaded the app and then I just immediately found the person I like. No, it took like I don't know, a few weeks or something. But anyway, so I met her on Bumble. We had this very strong bond over each other. We shared stories. We shared our darkest times. We shared our happiest memories together. And this is like the part why it's so important, or why it's so profound to me, is that I really thought that she was the one. Like I really believed it. Like I'm young. You don't see me go out there and be like, you know what? I'm gonna wake up one day and I'm gonna search for somebody whom I'm gonna end up with. That's not gonna happen. But with this person, I sort of had that idea, and I was so ready for that. I thought I was ready until it didn't work out. And the lesson I got from her was that sometimes you just gotta do things that you should do when you should do it. And for me, that's letting her go. I just had this
Mm.
idea that maybe we can just like end up with each other. We'll be happy forever. But that wasn't the case. I had to learn how to let go, and the ability to let go, it really gave me the strength to move on and to sort of like navigate life later. And I think it gave me a very good lesson. So that's why I would say that's like the most memorable one. It's kind of easy to pick because it just happened a few months back. But yeah.
So, how many relationships do you have before this one?
Ooh, are we talking about like official relationship
Or
where
like maybe you're just dating or something?
then oh my god, okay. Probably like
My God. Like this guy is like
No, no,
enemy
no.
of men.
No,
Number
no,
one.
no. It's not like that. I don't remember things. Probably
Oh
like
yeah,
six.
sure.
Like
This is the guy who remembered that like I gave him a banana and like a granola bar at the airport, and conveniently he starts to forget how many relationships.
I would say 6 or 7. I started dating.
And you keep complaining to me, oh Jack, I'm so lonely, terrible,
Well,
terrible. Six
well,
or seven, my goodness. Like you're like number one, and
Well, being lonely and being in a relationship, those are like two different things. But yeah, I dated quite a lot. I started dating when I was like preteen. We were just like
Hmm.
dumb kids just trying to fool around. And high school and through high school, I was sort of like a jock. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah. I was in the basketball team. I was in a band too, so I met a lot of people through that. So I did a while, and then I took a gap year, and during that year, I also fumble around people, and
Doing all this, and you still were able to like keep your marks up. And like, if you don't know, this guy's like top five in his university.
well, I don't know that is still true or not. I haven't checked for quite some time. But yeah, so last time I checked, I was up there. But I mean, it's not that hard to keep your grades up when you're dating someone. Date
It
someone
seems
that
like you've got everything people are looking for, Ethan. You got your good grades. Apparently, you're a jock. You got like many girlfriends. Like you shouldn't be complaining here. I
I
should be the one complaining. He's even younger than me, like by quite a lot too.
not a lot. It's just like 2 years. You're 24. I'm 22. That's not that bad. But well, I guess what I'm trying to say here is that yes, maybe that's true. Maybe I should, start to look to the other side, the side that's happy and the things that I had, not just look to the shitty side on this side. But I would say that it's not like I want everything. No, there's still things that still trouble me. Um, I hurt people, and it wakes me up at night. I think about it, and I was hurt too, and that sort of
Okay.
affect how I treat people, and I'm still working on that. And there are things I wish I could do, but I couldn't. So yeah, it's not like I got it all. Yes, I'm kind of lucky for being in that sort of position where I can say like, yeah, I did a lot of people, I had a lot of fun, that sort of stuff. But it's not like my life is better than yours. No, it's
No, I
not.
was kind of joking around, Ethan.
I know.
No
I'm just
worries,
saying
no worries.
that. Just sharing stuff. But yeah, and I guess that should be that marks the end of our first episode as well. We covered it all. We talked about romantic relationships. We talked about this idea of making this podcast, and we even touched a little bit about grievance and loss in life too. I think that's a pretty good first episode. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a good general episode to start out.
Mm-hmm.
I think you also learn a bit about ourselves, and well, I think the viewer has learned a little bit about ourselves, and I even have learned a bit about you, Ethan,
Mm-hmm.
which
Oh,
is
me too.
kind of
So,
cool.
yeah, it's very cool to know that side of you. Um, I guess our message, for our viewers out there is that if you're listening out there, if anybody listening out there, we are very grateful to have you here, even though there's only like I guess uh, one person. If you made it here, thank you so much for your time. We hope that you learn something, or at least you find this entertaining, I guess. And I guess we will see you in the next episode where we'll talk about, I don't know, maybe heartbreaks. I do have a lot of heartbreak stories if you want to listen to that. I'm
That
kidding.
might be interesting. We can learn a bit about your heartbreaks, Ethan.
I'm glad to hear so. I'm glad to know that my blunders is helpful for people. But anyway, I guess this is a goodbye for now. And I hope that,
Yeah, it was fun.
yeah.
I had a lot of fun doing it, and who knows? We might come back 5 years from now and be like, oh, like, remember that time when we did the podcast together? Oh, we still have the episodes online. Why don't we go watch them and we can laugh about how cheesy we are and
Yeah, and how
like how
unprepared we
terrible,
are. Yeah.
yeah, unprepared and stuff like
And how
that.
cocky we were. That sort of stuff. But anyway, See you, listeners, last viewers. I'm gonna spend the next 5 hours of my life trying to put this online. And stay safe out there.
Yep. If you don't know, I haven't helped him with anything. He's all on his own. I just show up, I talk, and I leave. Ethan's the one who does all of the hard work behind the scenes. But I'm not going to feel too bad about it because he was just bragging about how, thousands of girls, they all come to me.
I did not say that. Not at all. No. But anyway, this is a goodbye for real? Goodbye. Seriously.
Goodbye. See you next time
Yeah.
on Two Monkeys and a Microphone.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.